All right, so looks like someone's been hitting the books. Teaching reading skills, huh?
Yeah, lots to unpack here.
Getting ready for a class, maybe.
Yeah.
Brushing up on some techniques.
Yeah.
Or just, fascinated by how we learn to read.
Always a good thing.
Whatever brought you here.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into Chapter 5 with you.
Huh.
All about teaching those reading skills.
But, don't worry. We're not going to make this like back-to-school lecture time.
Right. We're digging for the good stuff.
Exactly. The useful stuff.
The why didn't they teach me that moments.
Exactly.
So first up, this idea from the chapter really grabbed me. Reading is way more than just recognizing words.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's active, like a mental workout. And the chapter says it strengthens your brain.
It really is. Think about it like, well, you wouldn't just bench press your way to fitness, right?
Uh-huh. No.
Gotta work all those muscle groups for real strength, flexibility. Reading's similar.
Ooh, I like that.
You've got all these sub-skills. Identifying main ideas, making inferences, skimming, scanning.
So it's like, instead of just passively absorbing words, we're, actively engaging with the text. Flexing those mental muscles.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
And that's going to have some serious benefits, right?
Sure.
Beyond just, understanding the words themselves.
Oh, for sure. The more actively engaged you are, the more you're going to remember.
Yeah.
Connect it to things you already know. And even, apply it in new ways.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So whether I'm speed reading a news article or, really dissecting a contract, those reading muscles come in handy.
Absolutely, they do.
Now, the chapter talks about two main ways to teach reading. Extensive and intensive.
Okay, yeah.
Extensive sounds kind of delightful. Reading for pleasure, choosing books you genuinely like a leisurely mental stroll.
Exactly, yeah. Fostering that love of reading, encouraging exploration, letting curiosity lead the way.
But I gotta admit, my memories of assigned reading back in school, not so leisurely stroll.
Yeah, I get that.
More like force march sometimes. So that's where intensive reading comes in, right?
Well, yeah, intensive is more focused, more analytical, digging deep into the text, the structure, really working those comprehension skills.
Okay, so dissecting Shakespeare line by line, that's intensive.
Definitely.
But I'm starting to see how both are important.
Yeah.
Like finding the balance between enjoying a relaxing walk and, pushing yourself in a workout.
Right, exactly.
But how do we make sure both types are actually, engaging? Because the chapter seems to really emphasize choice and relevance, especially for getting people to, enjoy reading.
Oh, absolutely. If you force someone to read something they find boring or irrelevant to them, they're going to associate reading with drudgery,
No fun at all.
But give them the freedom to choose, the chance to connect with the material. Reading can become a joy, a source of discovery.
This totally debunks that myth that, kids just inherently dislike reading. It's not about disliking reading itself. It's about finding the right fuel for their mental fire.
That's a great way to put it. Tapping into their interests, sparking curiosity, helping them discover the amazing worlds that books can open up to them.
Love it. Okay, let's talk about vocabulary. How crucial is it to understand every single word we encounter while reading? I know I've stumbled over my fair share.
Right, everyone does.
I mean, do I really need to know the dictionary definition of every word to get the gist?
Well, while a big vocabulary is helpful, the chapter emphasizes context.
Context, okay.
Yeah, you don't need to have a formal definition for every word to grasp the overall meaning.
This reminds me of this silly example. Imagine reading, "The fluffy poodle enjoyed eating biscuits with his shiny spoon." Now, swap spoon for chainsaw.
Uh-oh.
Suddenly, very different image.
Yeah, you've perfectly illustrated how one word can change everything.
But even without knowing what a poodle or a chainsaw is,
Right.
you can use the words around it to get a general idea.
Exactly. Context is key.
So pre-teaching those essential vocab words is helpful, but real-life reading is more about equipping yourself with strategies.
I'd say so, yeah.
Like giving someone a map before they explore a new city. Knowing some key landmarks is good, but the real skill is learning to navigate, discover,
Yeah.
maybe even get a little lost along the way.
I like that.
So we've established reading is an active workout.
It really is.
Do different reading muscles need flexing?
For sure.
And context can be a powerful tool for understanding.
Absolutely.
What else does this chapter have in store for us?
Well, remember how we were talking about building those reading muscles?
Yeah.
This chapter jumps into this whole debate about reading aloud in the classroom
Ooh, yeah.
and whether it actually helps or hinders that process.
Ooh, this is a topic I have some personal experience with. Remember those moments in school when you'd get called on to read aloud?
Oh,
I
yeah.
swear my heart would be racing. Palms sweating. Total performance anxiety.
Yeah, I get that.
Can be a bit rough.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. On the one hand, reading aloud can be fantastic for pronunciation,
Right.
building fluency.
But on the other, for someone like me, prone to, stage fright, it's a nightmare. You're so focused on not messing up that the actual meaning of the words just, vanishes.
I know, right? And the chapter emphasizes that. Reading aloud should be strategic,
Okay.
with a purpose.
What's the goal?
Exactly, yeah. If it's pronunciation, fluency, then great, it's valuable. But if the focus is comprehension,
Yeah.
maybe there are better ways.
So, right tool for the job. Now, building on this idea of different approaches, the chapter also talks about variety in what we read.
Okay, yeah.
You wouldn't want to eat pizza every day, right? Well, maybe some people would, but
I see what you mean.
you get the idea.
Yeah.
Exposing learners to different authors, genres, writing styles.
Mm-hmm.
It's essential for, a well-rounded language palette, I guess you could say.
It is.
It's like exploring different cuisines,
Mm.
discovering new flavors, expanding your horizons, but with words.
I love that analogy.
And this isn't just for students, right?
Right.
I mean, reading widely,
Right.
it can make anyone a better communicator,
Mhm.
more critical thinker, even more empathetic.
It can.
Now, let's get practical for a sec. The chapter lays out this 3-stage approach to lesson planning.
Hmm.
Pre-reading, while reading, and post-reading.
Okay, yeah.
And you know what's cool? These stages are useful whether you're, actually prepping for a class
Mm-hmm.
or just tackling a pile of reports for a big meeting.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Pre-reading is all about setting the stage for comprehension. If you were prepping for that meeting, you wouldn't just dive headfirst into those reports, would you?
Not if I wanted to actually absorb anything.
Yeah.
So what would pre-reading look like in that scenario?
Well, you might skim the agenda first, get a sense of the topics,
Okay.
jot down some questions beforehand.
Right.
It's all about activating what you already know and prepping your brain to engage.
So it's kind of like looking at a map before you set off on a journey.
Exactly.
You get the lay of the land, see some points of interest, maybe even plan a rough route.
Exactly. Yeah. And the chapter mentions pre-teaching vocabulary here, too.
Yeah.
In our meeting example, that might mean looking up any jargon.
Makes sense. Wouldn't want to be lost in a sea of technical terms during the actual meeting.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay. So you've prepped, you've got your context, you understand the terms. Now the meeting's happening, you're actively reading those reports. That's the while reading stage, right?
That's it. And the chapter suggests starting with a gist task, focus on overall understanding first. In our meeting, that might be listening to presentations, getting the main points.
Right. Get the big picture before the details.
Exactly.
And then we shift to more detailed reading, focusing on specifics. In the meeting, that's like taking notes, highlighting data, coming up with questions.
Right. All part of that active engagement.
Okay, so we prepped, we got the gist, we dug into the details. What's next?
Well, now it's time for...
Post-reading. This is where we, synthesize everything, right?
Yeah.
In our meeting example, that could be summarizing the takeaways, discussing implications, brainstorming action items.
Exactly. See how these stages apply beyond just a classroom.
Totally. It's about actively engaging with information no matter where you find it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we wrap up, I'm really intrigued by this last point the chapter brings up. It's about how a learner's first language, their L1, can impact how they learn to read in English.
Oh, yeah. This is so crucial, especially for anyone working with students from diverse backgrounds. Imagine learning to read in a completely different writing system.
Wow, yeah.
Maybe one that doesn't even use the Roman alphabet.
That's a whole other level.
It is.
The challenges must be huge.
They are, but it makes you realize how adaptable our brains are, you know?
It does. But also how important it is to recognize these differences and provide the right support.
Absolutely. And the chapter highlights how understanding those challenges can be key to unlocking a student's full potential.
Powerful stuff. All right, so we've explored how reading is an active process, the importance of choice and relevance,
Yeah,
strategic use of reading aloud, the benefits of variety,
for sure.
those super helpful reading stages, and even the impact of L1 on learning to read in English.
It's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, what are some key takeaways we want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest one is this. Teaching reading is about empowering people,
Okay, yeah.
empowering them to become confident, purposeful readers. It's not just about decoding words, it's about unlocking meaning, making connections,
Yeah.
and ultimately engaging with the world in a richer, deeper way.
Beautifully said. It's
Yeah.
like we're nurturing this love of language and giving people the tools to participate in the conversation of ideas.
I like that, yeah.
And you know, as we've been talking about all these different aspects of reading, I keep coming back to this idea of like balance.
Yeah.
How do we encourage both, like that joy of discovery, you know, from extensive reading and those deep comprehension skills that we build through intensive reading?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. And the chapter actually leaves us with a thought-provoking question, too.
Oh.
It asks, how do we create a culture of reading that celebrates both of those elements?
I like that.
It's like we're trying to build a world where everyone feels empowered to like wander freely through the world of books
Right.
and delve deeply into the, you know, the complexities of language.
That's a challenge, especially these days when information's coming at us from every direction.
Oh, yeah. It's overwhelming sometimes.
It is. And being a skilled reader, it's not just a nice thing to have anymore. It's essential.
Totally. We need to equip everyone with the tools to like navigate that flow of information, critically analyze what they're reading, extract meaning from all these words around us.
Absolutely. And that's why this deep dive's been so interesting, exploring these different sides of reading. We're not just talking about teaching techniques. We're talking about like empowering people to become active, engaged, critical thinkers.
It's like we're handing them a key, you know?
Yeah.
That unlocks a whole world of possibilities. So to everyone out there, you know, anyone who's passionate about reading, working to instill that love of language in others, or just curious about the power of words,
Yeah.
we want to hear from you. What's worked for you? What challenges have you faced? What aha moments have you had along the way?
Because the more we understand how reading works, the better we can support each other. Become truly empowered readers.
Love that. That's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of reading. We've covered a lot of ground today, but the conversation doesn't end here.
Nope.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep reading. Until next time, happy reading, everyone.